Welcome to the Reality Therapy Podcast, where the truth will set you free.
Welcome to the Reality Therapy Podcast. We have a great lineup of people today talking about what it's like to be a conservative or heterodox therapist in a field that is very progressive. And so I think we should start out with each of you introducing yourselves. Just say your name and like what your license is. Pamela, you want to go first? Oh, go ahead.
I'm Mickey.
Go, Becky.
I'm Mickey Heller, licensed professional counselor in Texas.
Okay, I'll go next. My name is Pam Garfield Yeager, and I think I'm in the worst crowd. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. Excuse me. I can't even say it, right? Maybe that's a sign. I'm a licensed
You're in Georgia?
licensed clinical social worker, and I'm in Georgia.
I'm Becky Shaulis. I'm a licensed professional counselor, also in Texas.
Hi, my name's Sara Nielsen. I'm an LPC and I'm licensed and reside in Alabama, and then I'm licensed in Missouri, Kansas, and New Hampshire as well.
Wow.
She's an overachiever.
Mhm.
So
New
thank you all
Hampshire.
for
That's
coming
pretty
today. And, kind of wanted to start off just what you notice of the field in terms of political bias. Like, do you see a political bias and what does that look like? Anybody can start off on this one.
Yes.
And scene. Go ahead, Pam.
Well, okay, the truth is I'm no longer working in a setting and seeing people day to day to see what people are saying. So a lot of what I see is what's online. So I'll be a little bit honest, and I'm not sure what people are saying in real life day to day. What I see online is getting more and more radical, and in terms of just comments and everyday people, and also the institutions and what they post. That to me, that's where I look at and I say, if they're promoting those things, then clearly our field is still in the direction of leaning very, very left and not even considering other points of view.
Yeah, I'll kind of piggyback off of Pam. I have my own private practice and I work out of my home. I'm 100% telehealth, so I'm not in other practices and working with other clinicians. So I don't really see or hear a lot of the rigmarole in person. Again, like what Pam said, it's mostly online for me as well, which very radical, very disheartening, very scary, what is coming to the clinical world. And, I think for me, the big part is we got to continue to support, more of the conservative right-leaning therapists to be more vocal and come out and speak out, because some of the radical left clinicians are doing a lot of harm and doing a lot of damage. And I think it's got to start in the educational system. We got to start there. And I think our boards need to really get a wake-up call of what a lot of the licensed professionals that are doing what they're doing and practicing how they're practicing, and it needs to be looked at very, very deeply, because clients are getting lied to. They're getting with affirmative care, it's causing more harm than good. And I think it's got to start, like I said, from the boards, the educational systems, and then there needs to be a lot of ethical. It needs to be looked at and kind of dissect with how some of the radical left clinicians are treating, and I use air quotes because in my opinion, they're not treating, they're harming what they're doing. So again, I see it online more so than in real life because I'm in my home and working by myself. So, but it's definitely getting worse, and it's causing a lot of problems.
I also work from home, Mickey, so and my own practice, but I have actually experienced it with clients who are expecting me to be more affirming than anything. And when I confront something, because that's how I mean, I tell people that I will not pull punches like in
Mm-hmm.
our first session. Like if I feel
Mm-hmm.
like there's something that goes against what they're telling me they want to work on, I'm going to tell them.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And when you mean
and
affirming, you're not just talking about gender, right? Because
oh
that's
no,
what
I
the
mean
problem is.
everything. Yeah,
People
like
want everything to be affirmed.
I have a couple of ethical non-monogamous on my caseload. In other terms, that's polygamy. And they want me to be affirming. They know how I feel. We don't, we talk about it as a relationship, but it's really difficult. And then, like you guys have said online, it's really interesting to me to be in the therapist groups, and I usually lurk. I was really excited to find the conservative one because now I have one I can actually talk
Yes.
in where I'm not going to get like beat up. Um, but where people are going off about some therapists not being affirming enough. And I'm thinking, but I take clients that I'm really uncomfortable with and I work with them. And I do it from the lens of let's deal with your mental health stuff. We don't have to talk about the politics. We don't have to talk about whatever, or we come at it from that perspective versus they're telling, I'm seeing all over the place. Well, I don't want to work with a Christian. I don't want to work with a conservative. I can't deal with that mindset, so on and so forth. And I- I'm I, I've been in the field for it's 25, so 14 years, and it was bad in when I first got into the field. It's really bad now. Like just therapists just not being willing to hear somebody else has a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I like Mickey and Becky to earn private practice all online from home and have been for a few years. So my exposure is mostly online. However, I moved to Alabama a few years ago, so I try to, do as much networking as I can because my biggest part of my career came out of Missouri. And I was at a meeting a few months ago, and some of the counselors at that meeting worked within the schools. And I don't really know a lot of the regulations of school counseling. I've never done it. I've worked with juveniles, but never in a school setting. And one thing that kind of struck me, and I feel like it's kind of left leaning, is I would use the word complaining about the permission of kids, minors, for therapy, and how that the kids should be able to submit to therapy at younger ages without the parents' permission. And not only does my moral compass go off with that, but as a parent, I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
I I would want to know if my kids were seeking therapy in school. I
Mm-hmm.
don't need to know the details, but I would want to know that they're in it and allow that. That's my choice as a parent. So that's kind
Mm-hmm.
of the experience that I've had.
So
That's a tough one.
I'm from
Sorry.
California, and I actually testified against this bill. It's one of the my viral moments. There was a bill called AB 665 where it has passed, and it not only in California are kids 12 and up able to seek their own therapy without any parental consent or involvement. Now they can actually go to residential treatment without parental consent and involvement. And that passed and it went through in 2023. I think it passed in 2024.
How
And
does
so
that work
that's
with payment?
I'm not sure, honestly. I think a lot of it's sort of
Point.
public dollars, Medi-Cal,
Oh,
tax
okay.
funded stuff. I think a lot of it is trying to target kids who don't have insurance and just they want to kind of snatch up these kids.
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm not sure how it's panning out there because I've moved since then, and I haven't heard specifically, but that is one of the worst bills out there where there and when
Gosh.
I was a school counselor and we were allowed to see kids without parental consent. However, at this time when I was a school counselor, which was in 2014 through 2016 time, we worked really hard to get parental consent. And when the parents said no, we almost always never work with them. And if we did very short term. So maybe 3 or 4 sessions and then said, off you go. We need your parents to be involved. But now it's a completely different scene.
And to me, that makes sense. If there's like an urgent situation, say my kids, something happened at school, there was urgent, they needed to talk to somebody, I'm totally fine with that. But just like you said, like on an ongoing basis, parental permission needs to happen. These are our children,
So
not the schools.
They did
didn't
roll
that
that
bill
out in Texas too, that parents have to opt in. It's not an
I
opt out
can't remember
anymore.
what it is in Alabama. It's
Yeah.
14 or
So
16. They were
we've had a
talking about it. I didn't catch it all.
Yeah,
we've
no,
had a
this
few
year it
mentions
rolled
of
out.
kind of the affirming model generally and
Sorry.
gender affirming care specifically. The narrative that I've bashed my head against a wall for 3 years now arguing with professors, the narrative is that if you care about people, if you're compassionate, you will affirm the identity. And the narrative is that the reason conservatives make bad therapists is because you're heartless for not affirming. So how would you respond to that?
Why are you going to affirm a lie? I don't know how else to explain it. I am a mental health clinician. I'm a therapist. My job is to hopefully guide you, lead you, help you to live a healthy, high functioning lifestyle, be your authentic self, but your authentic self is not based on a lie, right? And if you believe a lie, that's not healthy, right? We've got to figure out what's going on to make you believe why you're thinking the way that you're thinking. We've got to get down to the nitty-gritty of what's going on that's causing the gender dysphoria or the irrational thinking that's go around in your thoughts. I mean, we've got to get to the bottom of that and open up the whole scope of everything what's happening with the individual. But to say that we're not able to be compassionate or good therapists as a conservative Christian therapist because we're not affirming somebody's identity, well, I'm not going to celebrate or affirm or agree with irrationality with a lie. What kind of therapist would that make me if I'm saying, go ahead and lie? Go ahead and live your life as a lie. That's healthy.
We're
Mentally.
therapists.
Right. So, I mean,
And there's a way to go about it without it. I think that the left, there's such like black and white, harsh reality thinking that they expect the same from us. And I don't work with transgender people at right now, and I haven't for some time. I've moved away from that, but I try as much as I can. But you can, just like Mickey said, you could help somebody sort through it without being ridiculing or criticizing or shaming, because in almost all of those cases there is something underneath there. There is some sort of parental relationship dysfunction, there is trauma, there is something that is facilitating that belief. And I think that their thinking is just so black and white, harsh reality. They expect the same from us. I'm not gonna shame them for believing that. But just like Mickey said, we're gonna explore it, you know?
Yeah.
Well, why are they going
I
to a therapist? I was going to say, why are they going to a therapist if they want everything that they think and do to be affirmed? They can go to their dog and get
Bingo.
affirmed.
exactly. If that's truly all you need, go look in the mirror and say, you're the bomb, right?
I'm good enough. I'm
I'm
smart
good
enough.
enough. Yes.
And gosh darn it, people like me.
Becky, were you going to say something?
Stuart.
Oh, that's funny. So when it comes to that particular topic, I've had a few clients who claim to be transgender, and I've always come at it from the like genetic perspective. Like I stay away from it from a religious perspective most of the time. I don't even want to touch that. I will just be like, okay, so you feel like you're whatever, but the problem is your body doesn't recognize that. Your genetics don't recognize that. And so I had one woman who thought she was a man and she was having cycle issues and she refused to acknowledge it. And I finally looked at her in the via camera and said, "You really have to go see a gynecologist because your body is not recognizing what your head is saying because it can't, because genetically it's female and you will always have female issues and you have got to go get these dealt with." And i- it's that kind of, I think, not being harsh, but just this is reality.
What
Like
did she
Yes.
say?
she went, she
Do you
went,
know what the outcome was?
she was having PMDD. Like it was
Oh,
significant PMDD
Mhm.
and period stuff, and I recognize that, but it was like you've got to get some help with hormone type stuff. Not trying to, I'm like, if you continue to do the things you're doing, it's going to just get worse.
I mean,
Yeah.
what you did
Um,
was the responsible thing.
right.
exactly.
And I think, like I think there's a way to do that in a way that does, like Sarah said, it isn't shaming, it isn't, but I think our culture has, and I have this conversation with clients a lot, has conflated nice and kind as the same thing,
Mm,
and they're not.
mm-hmm.
And affirming is nice because it just tells you what you want to hear. Kind
Exactly.
means you're going to say what needs to be said, even if it's
I
hard to hear.
Right.
Yep.
And
And
that's kind of how I approach that.
when I am doing like I do 15-minute phone consultations. When I get a potential
Hmm.
client reaching out to me, I set up a phone consult. I want to make sure they, we're a good fit for each other. What are they coming for, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the things that I always tell people who come to me looking for services is that, I am a no holds barred therapist. I don't pussyfoot
Hmm.
around. I
Mhm.
don't sugarcoat things. I'm going
Hmm.
to tell you how it is and the reality and the factual based
Right.
information, but I will do it with compassion.
Hmm.
I'm,
Yes.
and they're like, that's exactly what I need. I don't want somebody who's going to tell me what I need to hear. Obviously, that's what I've gotten. And that's why I'm coming back to therapy because it didn't help me.
Right.
I need something who's going to be honest, who's going to be bold, who's going to speak the truth and guide me in a way that's going to help me live a healthy, functioning life. And I'm like, well,
I
then I'm your girl. Let's go.
Mhm.
I always make sure they know
I have
that
a
about
story
me
to
right up front.
piggyback off of Becky and Mickey. I have a
Thanks.
good friend who, for a long time, was a heroin addict, and when he was sick and going through withdrawals, he would tell his mom, like, "Mom, I'm sick," and she would feel bad for him and give him money to go get high to buy heroin. And so I think that, yeah, enabling, yeah. And I
Mhm.
think the moral of that story
Enabling.
is what seems
Hmm.
or feels nice in the moment is not always what's actually kind, compassionate, and loving in reality when you step back. And I think a lot of times that's the difference between progressive and conservative
Right.
ideology is
Right.
progressives have kind of like this knee-jerk kindness as opposed to like a more rational kindness. Mm.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
performative.
Mhm.
It's performative.
Mhm.
It's what is going to make me look good and feel good versus what is actually necessary or needed, or what the person actually
Mm.
long term wants. Even with a
So,
heroin addict,
y
I mean, he wants to feel better, but feeling better is going to mean
Mm.
going through some pretty tough,
Yeah.
uncomfortable things to get clean. I
well,
mean, I
let's
even
get
tell my
real.
trauma therapist that, or my trauma clients that, right? Like,
Yeah.
trauma therapy is messy and hard and it's painful and it's going to hurt before you're done.
Mhm. Yeah,
Mhm.
and the mom gave her child money to go buy more drugs, right? And he goes out to get more drugs. What if that
Mm.
was the last time?
I've
Mhm. Mhm.
experienced that years and years ago when I was working with teenagers in rehab. Very early in my career, I had a kid it was heroin as well.
Mm.
And the parents, pardon me, the parents wanted to pull him from treatment. And I said, "He- this, like, this is bad. he can die. I'm like, your kid can either be mad at you and alive or the opposite. And she pulled
Right.
him from therapy and he died that weekend.
Oh
Oh
my
my
gosh.
gosh.
I'm sorry for
Ooh.
you that you went through that.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the harm
It's
reduction
awful.
policies, and people will say that's compassion.
Mm,
Harm reduction, we're
mm,
really creating more harm
yep.
by
I,
enabling these addicts. And the gender and harm reduction, or the
Mm.
substance abuse with that mentality, is very similar in that
Mhm.
way. We're affirming their addiction, we're affirming their negative behavior patterns, we're affirming lies. It's all very overlapping.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. You know what else I think is interesting, that I think with the radical left clinicians, with their affirming and telling the client what they want to hear rather than what they need to hear. Honestly, I think that has a lot to do more with the therapist and the client, because I want my client to like me. You know what I mean? I want to make sure that they trust me and they think I'm cool and they keep coming back because I'm affirming them. And, I think and that's so unhealthy, so unhealthy. And I think that's a big part of it. I'm going to tell my client what makes them feel warm and cozy and mushy and loved, and in this way they'll like me and we'll do great things together. No, that's not good.
Yeah, I mean, we were all trained to keep our what we call transference and countertransference in check.
Yes.
We're supposed to, we all have that rescue fantasy. We all feel like, oh my God, if only I could just take this person home, I could save them. We have these impulses, we're human, but we know that's not healthy and it's not actually going to help. So we have to check ourselves.
Yeah,
yes.
very important.
I don't know why I'm losing my
So
voice right now.
one thing that I
Sorry
think
about
all of us, one thing I think all of us have seen quite a bit. We see it, online from these therapist Facebook groups, but I see it a ton from professors and fellow students in grad school. Is that conservatives should not be therapists. You don't have the either like psychological personality traits to be a therapist. You don't have the right morals and values to be a therapist. Who you are as a person is at conflict with who we are as a field. And in their defense, that is built into a lot of our organizations. The National Association of Social Work says you explicitly have to support social justice. So does ACA and Marriage and Family. All of them are essentially saying that. How do you respond to this idea that conservatives are not cut out to be therapists?
I think that it's totally possible to support social justice as a conservative when it's done correctly.
I don't
I
support
think,
social justice, but I think we're calling it different things.
well, yes, I'm using their word. But all right, I'm gonna go there. I'm a Christian, so my job is to be Jesus to people. That's my job. Jesus talked about supporting the poor and the outcast and the widow and the orphans and the people who were struggling. And if you look at how he treated people in the Gospels, he was constantly yelling at the religious leaders, and supporting those who were the downcast and the trodden and the people who were outcasts, like prostitutes and tax collectors and people who were physically disabled. And his disciples were also outcasts. Like if you look at what they did, culturally, they were all older than they should have been culturally to be chosen by a rabbi. And so if I'm modeling myself after him and following his example, then social justice, the way it should be, is built into that. I should be advocating for those who are outcast and those who are downtrodden and so on and so forth. But that doesn't mean that I'm affirming every delusion they have. And that's the difference, I think, if that makes sense. Like,
I think there's a few other
Absolutely.
differences, actually. The
well,
biggest
sure.
one is we believe, or I think I agree with you, even though I'm actually not Christian, that we should be helping the downtrodden.
Mhm.
However, we don't believe that it's the government's job to do it. I
Correct.
think that is
Correct.
the major difference. So they think
Right.
that we don't care about people who are struggling. Clearly we care because we've all chosen this profession, for one.
Right.
But also they think, you didn't vote the right way, so that means you don't care. Well, that's because we don't want the government to be handling it.
Right.
And then also, I see social justice, it's just the term. I
Mhm.
think justice is justice. I believe in justice.
Yes.
That when you put the word social in front of justice, then you've got these equity concepts. Then you've got all the the quotas, and you're putting certain groups ahead of other groups, and that's what social justice is to them, and that's what I don't believe in, and I assume you don't either, by
Yeah.
grouping people. And
Mhm.
so I think that's the difference. So you're looking at social justice as the pure form of caring about people who are
Right.
like struggling for one reason or another, and that's something that conservatives generally actually care about more, because they actually give more money to charity, they spend more time volunteering, they believe
Mhm.
that they're the ones that are to help. Like just now we had this government lockdown, we had all these Democrat leaders saying all these poor people are starving because the SNAP benefits are stopped.
Yeah.
Well, none
Yeah.
of them, some of them own multiple houses and millions of dollars, didn't give 1 cent to any of these poor starving people that were
Mhm.
not getting SNAP benefits.
And
Whereas
Catherine Clark added to use it as leverage.
Oh,
exactly.
100%. Yeah. I think the other thing there is, as somebody who has benefited from SNAP benefits in the past, because I got laid off when I was 5 months pregnant with my first daughter, and when my husband got laid off the week before she was born in 2009, we were the poster children for the recession. Um, and we spent several years on SNAP as a result. I was working, he was doing consulting, but I was working in a nonprofit and barely making $30,000, I think,
Mm.
Um, the original intent for welfare was a hand up. It was supposed to be temporary. It was supposed to be, here, let's get you back on your feet kind of thing. It wasn't supposed to be for years and years and years and
Mhm.
generations upon generations upon generations.
Yep.
And when I was working at that um, agency, I had was just out of grad school, and we were working with primarily Medicaid clients in the ghetto of the town that I grew up in. And I eventually just couldn't do it anymore because those kids were getting better Christmases than my kids were getting.
Mm.
And it was because people were stepping up to take care of, like, people were donating to them, and here I am taking them their gifts, knowing that I can't give the same thing to my kid because I'm barely making enough to stay alive, and I don't even know if I have enough money to put gas in my car, or food on the table. Not that my kids ever knew that that was a thing. They didn't. They were too little. But that's not what it was ever intended to be. It just turned into that.
Correct.
Well, initially it was intended to be that. I do believe that, you know, there was some intent maybe underneath to keep people in that bondage. And yes, I'm using that
I
word
think,
intentionally.
go ahead,
Yeah,
Mickey.
I can oh, go ahead, Ryan. I was just going to say, Becky, I can totally, empathize and sympathize with what you're saying. My husband and I have been on food stamps. Both my children were born on Medicaid, because we were barely making $400 a week. Back in many years ago. But we were on food stamps and welfare. We were on food stamps, WIC, and Medicaid, and we were on it for 5 years
Mhm.
until my husband got his career going and everything like that. And we did everything ourselves. We didn't get any other handouts. We didn't get people paying our way. We
Mhm.
worked our tail off, and I think that's why I get maybe a little defensive when I hear the word, "Oh, you're privileged,"
Yeah, because
Mm.
people don't have a clue.
They don't
They throw that
know.
around and they have
Right.
no idea.
Yeah. Okay. And I understand, I know Pam, you know a lot about, you've done a lot of research on like, white privilege and everything like that. And,
It
but
doesn't exist, not anymore anyway.
thank you. Thank you. But, I had when I had a client, and I think I brought this up in our other podcast, but I didn't tell the story, but I think this will fit. I had a client, I have two liberal clients right now. And the one, this is what brought it all out this particular day. I had no idea she was a lefty or anything like that, because that's not what she came to me for. That's not what she was paying
Right.
me, was to talk about politics. Anyway, um, and we got into some conversation. I can't remember what it was. This was a hot minute ago, but she looked at me in my face, right in my eyes, and said, "You're privileged because of your wedding ring."
What?
That's probably her
Interesting.
jealousy talking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm not gonna we're doing anyway. I was so like taken aback. My mouth had to have been on the floor, because I've never in my life had anybody say to my face that I was privileged, or white privileged or whatever. And the only thing, we got into a conversation, and I was grateful that she allowed us to have that conversation. And I'll be honest, I was very raw and authentic with her. I was speaking to her lovingly, and I didn't raise my voice, and I didn't get all weird and start, like they do. But I just looked at her and I said, wow. I said, you know what? I said, I've earned every single thing that I have. Nobody gave me anything. I earned every single bit of money that I have. My home, we saved for 2 years to build a home where we lived off of ramen noodles so that we can make sure we had the closing costs to build my home. I've been on welfare, I've been on food stamps, I've been on it all before. I know what it's like to not be able to afford a gallon of milk. I do, because I didn't. And now, because of the work that my husband and I have put into what we wanted our life to look like, we built that. I didn't get anybody go, here's a couple of grand, go build your house, or here's $10,000 to buy a new car, or here's this much money so you can have the biggest, best diamond ring. No, we earned it and we bought it, we saved, we paid for it. So when somebody tells me that I'm privileged because I have something, that pisses me off, because I earned it and it wasn't given to me. You know what I mean? And
And it
so,
certainly doesn't have to do with your skin color.
right, because
But I think there's a large
like the great
assumption.
Charlie Kirk said, what is something that a white person can do that a black person can't do? Right? It's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous to scream privilege. And I
I
can't
think there's a
stand it.
large assumption, so about therapists of that we've had privileged lives because of our education and our position. And I use the phrase, "I don't come from sunshines and rainbows. I came to this field for a reason because I've experienced hardships
Hmm.
and I've done the work emotionally, therapeutically, and
Hmm.
kind of pulled myself up." But I think too, this very much exemplifies, kind of going back to Ryan's question about, why conservative therapists are good or not good, whichever direction you want to come at that is, you notice even just the balance and thought in this room. It's not coming from emotion mind, and that's where I'm at most of the time. Is I'm coming from logic mind.
Hmm.
I'm not in
Right.
emotion mind that much, and I always sometimes feel a little odd as a therapist, being like, I feel so rarely in emotion mind, But I just feel like it's a more balanced approach to be in logic brain a good portion of the time.
Reality based.
Also,
Absolutely.
conservatives believe in empowerment. We believe in self-actualization. We believe in individual agency. And liberals believe in collectivism and groups and victimhood. So all of those ideas are not therapeutic. All of the liberal ideas, they're not therapeutic. If you
Mhm.
believe that your client is inherently a victim or inherently an oppressor, is a man and part of the patriarchy, how are you going to be a good therapist to that person? How are you going to be a good couples therapist to a man and a woman if you're favoring the woman instantly without even
That
knowing them and looking at them as individuals?
Exactly.
These are the
I think if
reasons
you
why
see
I
him as a
actually think it's harmful sometimes.
I do too.
mm.
I think if you see him as a victim, then you've got a savior complex, and
Exactly.
you're on a white
Yeah.
knight, and that makes you
I
think that
think
you're better than
that's
them.
such a
We see that all the
fantastic point,
time
Pamela,
with our
because I
colleagues
think if
that
you
we
come
don't
from like
agree
a
with.
traditionally like humanistic approach, you're supposed to keep this open-minded curiosity about who the client is. And so often progressives, no matter what your identity is, they've already put you into a box as soon as you walk in the door.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
when I was before we moved to Texas, when I was working in that agency, one of my colleagues was very verbally left, and so was it that would have been I think it was Obama's second campaign. And she posted I ended up unfriending her. She posted on Facebook at that point that if I didn't vote if you I think her statement was if you didn't vote for Obama, you can F off. Like on her public social media. And I was just like and I mean as a person I liked this person until that happened. And then I was like, I have no room for that in my life. Like if you're going to judge me because I chose not to vote for somebody simply because I disagree with policies, but that's what one of the things that we would get. Well, you don't like him because he's black. It has nothing to do with his skin color. I don't like his policies, you know. Same thing when I had some colleagues come at me about Kamala. And I was like, I don't care what color her skin is. I don't even care that she's a woman. I would vote for a woman. In
She
fact, if
doesn't even know what color her skin is.
well, 100%. If Condi Rice had run for president, I would voted for her. Like 100%, no questions asked. But or Tulsi Gabbard, who I'm not super fond of right now, but she was a Democrat for a long
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
And she, like she's got some different viewpoints, but I tend to agree with her. So I think it's the thing that I've noticed is like you said, Pam, people or Ryan, people put you in boxes immediately. Like liberals tend to do that. And I don't even not classical liberals, leftist liberals. Like Charlie Kirk talks about or Ben Shapiro even talks about this frequently. There's the liberals and then there's the left, and they're not the same. But I have family who have I got called a fascist by my family after Charlie Kirk died. And
Mm.
because I said my views haven't changed in 20 some years. Like I am in the center on almost everything. Consistently, my views have not changed. You guys have moved left significantly. And the fact that you can tell me that he deserved to be shot is a problem.
It almost doesn't matter where you lean if you can't just see that it's horrible that an innocent man was assassinated. That's a
Yes.
whole other conversation.
And that's
And
what
I
they don't
mean,
get. They don't get
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
They don't get that celebrating somebody being murdered in front of the entire world and that you're celebrating that. They don't get that that's like
They've dehumanized him. They've
thank you. I was
dehumanized
going to say it's
us.
I
just
think
not
what's even more
it's a
bizarre
lack of
is this lack of
humanity.
humanity is coming
Yeah.
from the people who are
The-
shouting empathy every 5 seconds.
There you go.
Yes.
That's what I was
Yes.
getting
Make it
at.
Very
make sense,
ironic.
Ryan. Make it make sense.
Well, I think it's the problem is we've weaponized that word.
What word?
And people don't understand that word
Empathy.
really.
Oh.
Empathy. We have weaponized, or not we have not weaponized empathy, but
Them.
politics have
Culture.
weaponized empathy. The left has weaponized empathy, and and they use it as a weapon. I mean, that's what my family, like I have siblings who've done that. My grandfather died on February 29th of 2020. And we were making plans to fly up to Michigan for his funeral when the shutdown happened for COVID. And so the service got postponed until August of that year. And we made a decision as a family that it was important for us to be there for the service. But we were not going to fly because it was too risky. And we didn't want to be in a, contained environment with canned air breathing down, with everyone sick. So we drove from Texas to Michigan, and we stopped we obeyed all of the rules, wear the mask, blah, 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 all the things, right? And I had a sibling who called me unempathetic and lacking in compassion and responsibility because we chose to drive to Michigan for that service. And I looked at him and I was like, I don't understand where that's coming from. It's
What
the
was the
same person who
logic?
called me a fascist. I wasn't. We came
Well,
basically.
that was the collectivism at its
Right.
peak there. You had
Right.
to mass save lives, everything saves
Mhm.
lives. You had to do things for the greater good,
Right.
which none
And
of
it
it
just
actually helped the greater good. But that's what
right. And
we were all
it's
brainwashed to believe.
it's wild to me to see the difference. So there's 7 kids in my family. We all were raised by the same 2 parents, and 3 of us are still maybe 4. There's one who's a more classical liberal, and then there's 3 of us who are conservative, and the other 3 are highly liberal. And it's weird just that we all got raised the same way.
Boy.
I'm the black sheep, so it's fun.
Y'all need to go watch
Released today.
my podcast with Ryan that just came out today. Released today.
Ooh.
A little bit, I have 2 children, my daughter who's 28, my son who's 26, both raised in our home, both from me and my husband. And it's kind of what you're talking about, Becky. My daughter growing up was our star pupil. She was straight A's, honor student, athlete, volleyball, softball, pretty popular, absolutely beautiful, all the things. And my son, unfortunately, had a lot of mental illness going on. My son attempted suicide 17 times.
Oh gosh.
And in and out of hospitalization, in and out of therapy. I mean, it was hard. But man, did the roles turn. My daughter went off to college and was influenced by the left, the radical, the woke tards, okay? The retarded woke tards got a
As
hold
Charlie
of
says, those places are just indoctrination. That's all
exactly.
they are.
It happened to my daughter. She went to University of North Texas, UNT, which is a very liberal school. And she went there, and she went. I can't even say what happened. I don't even know what happened, but she was influenced, and we've been estranged since 2019. And when Trump won this second election as 47, she basically told us that we were officially dead to her, because we voted for a man that wants, the people that she loves dead, which are transgenders, because she's with a transgender
That's
female.
rhetoric, though, that's being repeated, because I've heard
Oh,
that.
yeah.
I dive probably a little too deep on this stuff sometimes, but it's just repeated rhetoric. And it's interesting because I'm like coming from the opposite experience. My parents are Democrats. And I always, I know. Oh, ooh.
Yeah, I'm with
It
you.
turned out so great, Sarah. Look at that.
I'm the same way.
Don't tell anyone, people.
But they're, I feel like I always have to clarify this. And Pam, this may be what you're getting ready to ask me. They're old school Democrats. They are not this new party.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
You're
And
absolutely right.
So, for us,
But they don't know the difference. That's the problem.
Right.
In my case. I don't know about yours.
Right.
Yeah.
And my parents, they know where I stand. We don't talk about it a lot, and that's why, because I know where they stand and they know where I stand. But the interesting thing for me is, from a family of old school Democrats versus this new party, if you will, of how different they are. Because if my parents were of the new party, they would have disowned me, but they're the old party.
Right.
And that's, again, I feel like that goes back to that emotion thinking and logic thinking.
Yes.
I'm logic thinking. I absolutely know who my parents voted for this last time. And I hate it, but I would never not talk to them. They're my
Right.
parents, and I
Right.
still love
Right.
them. And we may not agree on a lot of things, but again, it's this is the other thing I always kind of get caught up in. It's just like this old party Democrats versus the new, and
Mhm.
they're totally different. They're nowhere the same. And I voted Democratic for many years, and came to a conservative side a few years ago. So it's
So
been a very
I want to
different
build off of
experience for
something
me.
Mickey
Wow,
was
that's pretty
saying. You
cool.
know, your child looks at you and says, like, how could I have a relationship with you if you voted for somebody who wants me dead? And you know, as therapists, I think a lot of us have gotten that. Like, if
Mhm.
you voted for Trump, like, well, how could you work with a marginalized client if you vote for somebody who doesn't respect their human rights? And that kind of goes in the face of the fact that millions of Black and Hispanic people have moved from voting Democrat to voting Republican. I've met so many gay and lesbian people who now vote Republican because of
Mhm.
Trump. We've met a number of detransitioners, a lot of women. I think a majority of women, I believe, voted for Trump or close
Mhm.
to it. So there's this
It was
yeah. So
definitely
you've
more
got
this
this
time than
idea
it
of
was
like,
before.
you know,
Mhm.
if you don't
Yeah.
vote like I do, you must not respect all these populations. But it feels like they're the ones who are not respecting the autonomy of these populations to choose politically what they want.
Ryan, that's the problem. The hypocrisy is
Yes.
insanity. You know, like they're screaming this and they're screaming that, and but yet they turn around and do the exact same thing or the exact opposite of what they're screaming.
They're
And
really good
that's
at gaslighting.
yeah.
But there's also
It's
this assumption that
Mm.
if you voted for Trump, you're white, and that we're all a bunch of racists.
hmm
And I'm like, are you forgetting the fact that people of color voted for Trump?
I mean,
Are
he
you not
flipped
familiar
counties in
with the
Texas that had never voted Republican
exactly?
ever.
And go back and look at the Malcolm X quote. Who is the most dangerous of white people? It's the liberal whites. It's not the
Yeah.
conservative. He's even said it. The conservatives are
Yeah.
your friends.
Ronald Reagan said it too.
Well, I
Yeah.
think they also it was interesting because I saw somebody who had I think her name is Becky Weiss. Maybe you've seen her on
Yeah.
social
I
media.
love Becky
But
Wise.
she pointed out that liberals rely on conservatives who own guns to protect them
Mm,
because they don't want to own guns.
make that make
And
sense.
they're like, well, the conservatives will just take care of me. And they're not wrong because we will, because that's how we operate, right? But I think it all kind of like they're really good at gaslighting, but and they don't even sometimes I don't I'm not sure how many of them actually realize it. The people high up do. Those who are just spouting off what they've heard have no clue. And so when I'm working with clients who are more liberal, if it comes up, I don't want to ever bring it up, but if it comes up, I come at it from that reality perspective, like you were talking about, Sarah, the logic perspective, um, where I'm like, okay, let's actually talk about what actually got said. Or let's
Mhm.
talk about the thing that just happened and just got revealed today or yesterday about the BBC edit of Trump's speech.
That's
Yes.
Right.
right. I just saw that.
Yep.
Yes. I
Yep.
Because
saw
now
that 2 days
they're
ago.
in big trouble because they took out 50 minutes of his
Mhm.
speech to make it sound like he was leading an insurrection when that was in fact not at all what he
Not
said.
even close.
It wasn't
And they
even
want to
close.
talk
And
about
so if
ethics with
that's
conservatives.
happening, yeah, if that's happening, and now the BBC's had two people resign, he's suing them. There's potential for more resignations. If that's happening, where else did that happen? Where else have you seen
Correct.
those things? I've had people
Do
say
they
I
ever
had a
hear you out?
client.
It's really
Yeah,
hard to
actually,
penetrate.
some of
Oh,
them
that's
have
great.
really been like, "Oh, I never thought about it like that." I had somebody bring up Charlie Kirk like the day after he died. She's Hispanic, definitely more liberal. And I said, "Well, what's your issue here? What's the problem? Like, what don't you like about him?" "Well, he's racist." Where did he ever say that? Where did he ever say anything racist? "Well, I heard it on this clip." Did you watch the whole thing?
Mhm.
Yeah, they took so
Did
many
you
things out
watch
of
did you watch the
context.
entire
Mhm.
clip or did you just see 15 seconds?
Because
Mhm.
he
Same thing
said he
with
didn't
Charlie
like civil
Kirk.
rights, so they're taking that
Mhm.
as he's racist,
Right.
but he was actually he was comparing it to the trans issue because
Mhm.
basically the trans activists hijacked the Civil Rights Act
Right.
for them to invade women's
Mhm.
spaces and
Right.
to invade sports and those things. So he was saying it had good intentions, but now there's some problems. So he was talking about that, and they don't
Mhm.
clarify that's what he was talking about. They just think, oh, he's automatically racist and he hates
Right.
everything that they believe Martin Luther King stood for.
Well, and he,
Mhm.
he wants affirmative action to be done away with. Yeah, because
Hmm.
it's a handout. It
They should
means
pick up
that
a
your
Thomas Sowell
boss
book.
thinks that you can't do better. It means the school thinks that you can't do better. So we're just
Right.
going to hand you something. Prove
Yeah.
them wrong.
They also don't succeed. It really
Right.
actually sets them up to fail in many
Right.
situations. And when they do achieve something, then they have to question: did I achieve this because I deserve it, because of my merit, or because of the color of my skin?
Mm-hmm.
I
That's
would
not a way
never
to
want to
live.
be hired because I'm a woman,
Yeah.
ever.
Nope.
Mm-mm.
That
Yeah.
would not make me feel good. That would not
Well,
make me feel qualified.
right.
Right.
I feel like that would make me feel stupid.
Diminished.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
for sure.
Hmm.
And then with speaking on the what's happening today or last night or whatever, the Dems are trying to, bring out the Epstein files and all that, with
Hmm.
the victim that she
Yeah, that
already
was
did her
Virginia
report.
Guthrie, and
She
she was
wrote it in
like,
her
he didn't
book.
do anything.
He
Hmm.
didn't do anything, but
Absolutely.
they're trying to didact it and make it look like she was a victim and they spent lots of time alone. Well, she already, did her testimony and
Yeah.
wrote her book and everything like that. It's just
They're reaching
they're slimy.
They're I was gonna say they're just grasping for
Yeah.
straws here.
because they know they're in danger, quote
Yeah.
unquote. And I don't mean that literally, but they know they're losing. And when
Yeah.
you lose, you just start
So,
grasping for straws.
Exactly.
Hmm.
so I
The sky's
want
purple
to dig
today.
into the
Mhm.
politicization of therapy, like from the perspective of like clients you see. So I've talked to a number of therapists who say like politics are much more on the mind of their clients than they used to be, and you're having to unpack a lot of like political stress. So what have you seen in that
Yeah.
regard?
I mean, I just see the families who are dealing with the trans thing. So
Yes. That's where it's
that's,
mostly came up with me too.
I guess there's that issue. But I know that's an issue in general with a lot of families, something I'm personally dealing with, but it's not something I'm treating or working with as a therapist. I know a lot of therapists are facing that, especially as now we're entering the holidays,
Mm,
the stress of that.
yeah. I think I'm very lucky in this realm. I think a lot of almost all, I think, but two, like I mentioned earlier, are left leaning. I think the rest of them are all pretty, at least the ones that I know for sure are, conservative, on the right. I'm not having any issues in my personal practice, and I feel very blessed and lucky that I'm not really dealing with a lot of the stuff. Every now and then a client will be like, um, they may do like gosh, I can't believe they're laughing at the murder of Charlie Kirk.
Hmm.
They may voice something like that. Again, not my my two liberal clients. They they don't really say much of anything anymore because I think we're very clear on where we stand and we keep it therapy focused, not political, because what's the point? And the one client that I shared with y'all that told me I was privileged because of my wedding ring, one of the things that I told her straight up was that I am not going to fire you as my client because we don't see eye to eye on this. I said, there's a reason you hired me to do a service for you, and this conversation is not it. So I
Hmm.
am honored to be able to work with you. I'm happy to work with you. I will continue to work with you if you allow me.
Yeah.
And
That's how I've handled it too,
mhm,
Mickey.
mhm,
I think it goes back to that kindness and you can disagree with me and I'm not going to get angry with you for
right.
disagreeing
Hmm.
with me. And I think in my experience, that's taken my liberal clients by surprise in a good
Oh,
way.
I
They're
agree.
like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. Um,
I think she
And
expected me to go, "Oh my God, you're fired," and I'm like, "No, I want to work with you. Let's
Yeah.
continue to do great things together." You're absolutely right.
I mean, you're
So,
modeling what they need. I mean, we all know this, and I think people who
Mhm.
are therapists who are listening that most of the therapy is not the content, it's
Right.
the
It's the
process
relationship.
and the relationship.
Mhm.
So what you're doing is you're modeling the fact that you won't abandon them. You're modeling like healthy disagreements, and that's actually big part of the treatment right there. So we could
Yeah.
talk about the little details of what's on the news and what people think, but it's really more about the relationship between you two and between your patients and yourself.
100%.
I agree with you. I've had a couple somewhat recent ones. One of them, it's been a while, so details are a little more difficult. I had one where I recall they were complaining about either a friend or a partner or a relative, somebody close in their life, who was more conservative and therefore they were not open minded. They were not being open minded because they're open minded and that person is not open minded. And I don't remember exactly how I went about it, but the interesting thing and the really cool thing was at the end of the conversation, they realized that they were actually being the closed minded one
Wow,
Right.
because
that's
they
great.
weren't allowing these other views. So that was a really cool story.
Yeah.
And then I had another client who had both of their children, one or both were trans, and if not, the other one was gay. So both of them were in LGBTQ, so on and so forth. And this person had a lot of irrational fear, with this administration. I mean, some of the stuff gets pretty outlandish of the fears that's going to happen with LGBTQ in this administration. But she had a lot of fear, a lot of irrational fear. And we did other work in her therapy, but then it kind of like gravitated to this for her. And we did decide to move to a place of not working together after working together for some time, somewhat temporary, short term, I would say. And I think it was the best decision for her. But she had a lot of irrational thinking, a lot,
It's so
and
nefarious because these people, I'm saying these people, the internet, the activists, the politicians, the Planned Parenthood, all of these institutions, the Trevor Project, they induce this, but they know who they're talking
this
to.
fear.
They know they're talking to people who already have some kind of instability, who are prone
Yes.
to being anxious, who are prone to believing these things, and they know exactly what they're doing to continue this cycle of fear
Yes.
and panic and
And
just poor coping.
I
They're
have some
preying
other
on
left
them.
clients, but some of my other left clients, it comes up here and there. Every once in a while, it's not extreme.
We just lost
Um,
Ryan.
yeah, I saw that. Do we
How do we
pause
lose
or
Ryan,
folks?
where'd you go?
What's happening?
what do we do?
No!
One new chat message.
That was for me. I have a
Oh,
client at
okay.
10:15, so I'm gonna have to disappear here shortly.
Ryan, where'd you go? What's
Are we?
happening?
Is it still recording? Yeah, it's still
Yeah.
It's
recording.
still recording.
All right, let's keep talking.
I
Sarah,
will
I'm
tell
sorry to
you though
interrupt
with
you.
this,
Welcome
I
to
will
the
tell you
Reality Based Podcast. I'm Mickey. I'm going to
right.
continue being the host while Ryan's disappeared and been, I don't know,
He's gonna watch
alienated.
this later. Everybody do
And-
something funny.
And RPA. We're
There he
taking
is. He came back.
over.
The aliens have come
We've
and
taken
taken him
over.
away.
Did y'all
Ryan,
freeze
where'd
too,
you
or is it just
go?
me?
No,
He ran away.
Where's Ryan?
We kept
We're
on
like, we just
going.
lost
I don't
him.
think that's ever happened to
We
me
kept on
before. That was
going.
weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm going to be the host. I'll continue until Ryan's back.
I hope
Keep
y'all.
on going,
I hope y'all
Sarah.
had a good chat without me.
Yes.
We did. You'll watch
we
it
did.
later. You'll
We
see.
did.
I will.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
I do
well.
find it interesting with that client, though. I have to say this. I do find it interesting with a lot of irrational thinking, her story, and both of her children identifying in LGBTQ. I just find
I don't
that
think that's a
interesting.
coincidence.
Nope, it's not.
No.
Mm-mm.
And
That's
so
a lot what I talk
I
about.
really
It's like,
not moved on from many clients, but for her, it was just we were so polar opposite. I just didn't feel like it would be. I didn't feel like I would be beneficial, and that's where as therapists, here's the conservative therapist. There's no ego in the room. I'm
Right.
not the best therapist for everybody. Absolutely
Exactly.
not. And we have to know our boundaries and say, okay, I just don't think this is going to work because She was going to continue these irrational beliefs, and there was no balance. There was
Mm-hmm.
no look at this, look at that. There was no other side of the story. So
It's just the way I am. That's
It
it.
sounds like
Take
she
it or
wasn't
leave it.
ready. She wasn't
yes,
ready. Regardless, I don't think it had to do
not
with
for
you
that
not being
stuff.
the right
Yeah,
therapist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you.
for sure.
Yep.
Awesome. So I think kind of touching on the perspective that as a progressive, they have something to offer clients that you don't. I'm wondering, is there something, some either perspective or techniques or values that you have as a conservative therapist that you feel like the mainstream of the field is missing?
Confrontation.
I like that.
And I don't mean
Challenging.
that in a conflict way. I mean, I'm not afraid to confront irrationality. I'm not afraid to
Absolutely.
confront something that's a blatant lie. Like, I'm just not afraid to. I think that's something that goes with like the pervasive side of our field is so affirming. They will not confront, and 90% of our clients actually need that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite term is, well, how's that working out for you?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Dr. Phil.
Right? How's that working for you?
I
Well,
mean,
I've been
they're in
doing this for
therapy.
15 years and it's just the way it is. Well, then why are you here?
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
No, I'm the same. Like I told earlier, I'm a very no holds barred therapist. I'm not going to sugarcoat, and I'm going to
Mhm.
challenge you, and I'm going to make you think, and I'm going to keep you as logical, rational, and reality based as I possibly can. And if I can't, then I'll kind of go off of what Sara was talking about. You know what? Maybe we're not making progress here. Maybe we need to kind of reassess, see what we're looking at, what are our goals, what are you hoping to get out of therapy. What do you need from me as your therapist? Is it something that I'm able to give or provide? Things along those lines. But yeah, I'm not definitely going to challenge. Definitely going to challenge.
I
Mhm.
don't know if it's because I'm conservative, but I've become a little, I guess, questioning of systems and big pharma and
Oh yeah.
all
Yeah.
of the traditional things that we've been taught. So I'm just skeptical. Maybe that's part of being conservative or just being skeptical. But I'm more holistic, I believe, than most of
Yeah.
the liberal colleagues are. I'm going to question, I'm going to wonder, it's out of my scope medically, but I'm going to wonder if they're on psychotropic drugs, if those are helping or hurting. I'm going to wonder if they've had a bunch of vaccines, if that has something to do with what the symptoms that they're going through. I'm going to just look at all as much as I can. I'm going to look at all the different influences and not just pigeonhole what the DSM says or what I'm supposed to think, and just send them on this pathway, this one size fits all pathway that our profession seems to be doing.
Pamela,
If
that's
we just go off
Yes.
the DSM, we're all crazy.
Pamela, that's
Yeah.
such an interesting idea because I feel like from the progressive narrative is like they're the ones who were like sticking it to the man and challenging the system. And it's like,
Yeah.
you just believe whatever
Not
the system
anymore.
tells you.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, just the masks that in alone. So this was one of my big things when I was still working in a center. They were masking people with severe mental health issues. I was in IOP, PHP, group therapy with people who had just come off from being hospitalized. Some of them had pretty severe mental health disorders, psychotic symptoms, bipolar, mania, real symptoms, real severe paranoia, that kind of thing. And we're masking them.
Yeah.
And we all know at
Mhm.
this point that the masks don't work. They were doing it because the mandate was in California. They're just following orders. But nobody was even questioning it. Nobody was speaking up about it. Nobody was saying how this is harmful it's harmful for
Right.
us all, but in particular with this population and what the harms were. They were just going along to get along. They didn't even think it was a problem. It was just status quo. And that to
Right.
me was so demoralizing to see my colleagues not think how this is so bad for people. I mean, trauma, just to be able to breathe if you're dealing with it,
Yes.
not being able to see people's faces. It's hard enough for us who have regular everyday aren't just coming out of a hospitalization to not see people's faces, not be able to see smiles, not be able to see expressions in people who are struggling socially. To me, it blew my mind. And I don't know if that makes me more conservative, but it certainly made me angry. And
Mhm.
I stood up, and I was not popular for that, but I was also kind of new and only part-time, so I didn't have much of a say. It was just also just the fact that all of my liberal colleagues were just so conforming. They were so just
Brainwashed.
going along with it, and yeah, and brainwashed because they were scared. They
Yeah.
also really
Mhm.
believed that the masks were necessary, even when
Mhm.
they thought they were so necessary and so helpful, but it was okay if they were sipping coffee to take their masks off. That was just
Yeah.
fine.
I have a niece who still wears a mask.
Y I had an actual so I got COVID in, Christmas of '21, and I was working for a group practice at the time, and I told her I sent her a screenshot of my at-home COVID test that I took, and so I sent my boss a screenshot, and it's like, "Hey, I've got the Rona," and she's like, "Well, you have to have an official doctor's test, to whatever." Because, remember back then practices and offices and stuff would get what was it, like a tax refund or
Yeah, they
something
get
like
money
that?
for that,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Um,
okay, so fine. I went to my local Care Now clinic or whatever it was, and I had to go get the nose,
Mhm.
violation. Um, uh, and the brain tease, right? I had to get that done, and I had to get the official that I had COVID. Okay, so why am I telling this story? So I had my mask, and I wish I had it handy to show you guys because all of you guys would love it. It was you remember back in World War, I think it was one or two. I don't remember if it was one or two, but remember the woman that was in the bandana, the picture that
You can
was
do it.
yes,
yeah.
yeah, that okay. So it was a picture of her, but it said something like mental health warrior on it or something like that. It was really cool. And it
Oh,
was just a regular cotton, like a t-shirt material, right? And that was the mask I wore. And so I'm at the clinic and I'm getting the nose jab, and the nurse backs away from me when she walks in the room. She goes, "You can't wear that mask." I'm
why?
sorry, what? Because you have to have an
Day
N95
five.
mask. Those don't work. You're
Nothing
not being
works.
yeah, this nurse literally told me that I was being
Oh,
irresponsible,
she just
and that's
froze.
why
Or
I
did
was
I
in there
freeze?
testing positive for COVID because I was wearing the wrong mask. And I was like, "Look, lady, just do your test, give me my results, and I'll be happy to be kicking
They're
rocks."
zombies. These people
Yeah,
are zombies. They
Yeah.
lost
Yeah.
their brains.
yeah.
Well, it's like when
Yeah.
you see at different protests and conservatives go around and interview and ask, liberals, like, why are you here? I
Mhm.
don't know. It seemed fun. I'm here for the vibe. What is communism? What is fascism? What is socialism?
It's
And
so
they're
true.
deer in headlights.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really
It's like
sad. Well,
the
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 therapists are the
DOC. It was
worst.
like, I'm here for the
Yep.
vibe.
I'm sorry, what? The what?
Yeah,
So I have
aka
a little
Megan the
story. I
Stallion.
went to a therapy conference in California, in San Jose, California, and it was CAMFT, California Association of Marriage and Family Therapists, 2023. So the mask mandates were done. We all knew that they didn't work. People weren't wearing them as regularly,
Yeah.
but they still had the mask sitting out on their thing. And I asked them if they use masks in their sessions or in their groups. It was like a group counseling program. I was just asking them at their booth, and they said, "Well, we don't mandate it, but if they want it, we want them to feel comfortable, so we offer them the mask." And I said to the therapist, "Well, but do you believe that they work? Do you have the data that they work?" And she said, "Oh, no, I know they don't work, but I want them to feel comfortable."
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, "Well, but you ever think that perhaps your patients need to know the truth
Mhm.
and that you're not helping them by reinforcing
Their
anxiety,
Yeah.
fear.
reinforcing a
Yeah.
lie, and reinforcing a behavior such as covering their face, which blocks them from society, blocks them from engaging with people, and dehumanizes them, all of the negative things we know about masks, and let alone all the physical health problems."
Mhm.
And she was like, "Oh, I hadn't thought about that." She agreed with
Oh.
me.
How do you not think about that?
But you can see,
All
like,
she can think is, I want to make them feel safe. That's what
did-
therapists think. Feel
Mm.
safe, feel
Bless their
safe,
heart.
feel
Yeah.
Like we
safe,
say
feel
here in
safe.
Texas,
To a
huh, Becky?
detriment.
Bless their hearts.
Yeah.
And we say that in Alabama
Yeah, like I
too.
said, I have a niece who's 19 and still wears a mask, like at family events.
Oh gosh.
Did you, or
And
how
it,
about the ones in the car by themselves still?
Yeah.
Did
Yeah,
you
that
guys
too.
see, who was it? Jennifer Garner?
Her daughter.
Yeah. Okay, yes. She spoke to, who was it? I can't remember
The
exactly,
World
but
Health Organization, the UN, United
yes,
Nations.
yes,
United Nations.
about masking. And if I don't know if you guys, any of you saw that, but if you're
I feel
watching
so
her
bad for her.
behaviors and her just kind of social oddities,
Yeah, she's got issues. She
Oh,
needs a
they all do.
Is
therapist.
that like a
Not
video that's
one.
available? Can I go and find it? Or?
Probably. You probably find it
yes,
on YouTube.
Probably on YouTube.
yes,
Yeah,
analyze her
that
behaviors.
same niece doesn't know whether she's a boy or a girl either. So like, there's a lot of issues
Also
there.
not a
Lots of confusion.
coincidence.
No,
Mhm.
it's not. Well, she she just got diagnosed with ADHD, and and the therapist wanted to give her an autism diagnosis, and she declined the autism diagnosis because she didn't want to end up in a concentration camp.
Oh.
That's interesting because I think she
you better believe I put her in her place.
Wow.
You would not be
I
a
was
good
like, where in the
therapist
world
had
did you
not.
hear that? No, and she's like terrified of RFKJ. It's hilarious, actually. No, and my eldest daughter is undiagnosed, but on the spectrum too. And we had this issue with her at about 13. She's, awkward and uncomfortable in tight fitting female clothes. So she dresses like, in her words, a grandpa. And which is true, she does. and and she was, struggling, and I sat her down and said, look, you do not have a Y chromosome. You will never have a Y chromosome. You will not be a boy ever. You are a girl. And if we need to have a different conversation at 25 when your brain's done developing, then we'll have that conversation at that point. But for now, you're a girl, period.
Yeah. And you know what? It's totally
She has
okay.
never questioned it since.
Yeah, and
That's
it's
good.
and good for you, Becky. But it's also totally okay if she wants to dress like a tomboy. You
I
can
did
wear
growing
whatever
up,
the
and
clothes you
I
want to
think
wear.
about that a lot. Is like
Yep.
this day and age, I'm Gen X. I'm 48, and so
Same.
Yep.
you
Me
know,
too.
when I was growing up, I wasn't comfortable in a lot of like like a lot of the shorts I wear were boys because I wanted longer shorts, and
Mhm.
I'm a tall girl too. That's probably part of it as well. But I was very much a tomboy,
Mhm.
and if I was raised in this day and age, particularly by the left, I would be transgender.
That's a
And
lot to
I'm
do with it.
absolutely not. I was just a tomboy. That's all it
Exactly.
was. That
Mhm.
simple.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's okay.
I have to bow out.
Okay.
I have a session at
Thank you for joining
10:15.
us.
I did let her know that I was going to be a few minutes late, but thank you so much for this. This was
Nice
great.
meeting you.
Nice meeting
You
you,
too.
Becky.
Thank you.
Take care.
So I wanted to switch directions a little bit. I feel like there's this common idea amongst progressives that therapy is always good. Everyone needs a therapist. Everyone can benefit from therapists. And you have people on the right, I'm thinking of like Abigail Schreier's Bad Therapy, where she says a lot of therapy is more harmful on balance than it is beneficial. You've got Matt Walsh, who's like therapy is like overwhelmingly kind of a scam, is how he presents it. One of the things I'm afraid of is that in our society, we're presenting this dichotomy where liberals go to therapy and conservatives don't. And I think there's a lot of liberals going to therapy who don't need to be there. And there's probably some conservatives who do need mental health support, and they look at this field and say, that field is not for me. You people can't help me. Well, what can you tell me about like what's going on in that political landscape in terms of how we view therapy?
I just had somebody ask me this question literally yesterday, a client, about like, do you think everybody needs therapy? And I do have some conservative clients, which, is nice. But I don't believe that everybody needs therapy. I don't. Because, you have people who are like, somebody just told me I should come. And then you're like, okay, what do you want to work on? What do you want to talk about? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, this is your therapy. It's not my therapy. I'm not here to dictate your therapy. I'm here to run the directions you want to run. And so I personally, I don't believe that everybody needs it. There's
Same.
many just very functional people in the world.
Yeah. My goal is to have you graduating out of therapy. I don't want you
Absolutely.
to ever need me again.
The goal
You
is
know,
to get out.
The goal is to get out of it. And
I always
so
say that.
I don't think everybody should go to therapy. I don't think everybody needs to go to
No.
therapy. Do you have an external factor in your life, such as a parent, an aunt, a grandparent, a best friend, a mentor? Go talk to them. Say, hey, let's sit down and have a conversation, right? But you don't, oh, you should go to the therapist. Why? Are you mentally ill? Do you
It's just
have,
not always needed.
if you're just feeling melancholy and you're just having a bad day, maybe an adjustment issue, like I'm moving to a different state or I have to find a new career. Okay, I understand some people may handle adjustments or transitions a little bit different than others, but I don't necessarily think it warrants psychotherapy. If
Correct.
you have somebody in your life that you trust and that has, been a person that has guided you in a healthy direction, go sit and talk to them. Go hit up your local coffee shop and have a conversation. But I don't think you necessarily need to have a therapist. I don't want you. I want us. I think who said this? Was it Soad? I think it was Soad. Soad said something like, you don't need, I don't want you to have a therapist or something along those lines. I was listening to a podcast she was on or something, and she mentioned something like that too. But anyway, I don't think everybody needs a therapist. I don't think everybody should go to therapy. But I do think people should have a good support system within their life that can help them and like they could talk to, have a friend, you know. But I don't think everything warrants a therapist.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, one of the things specifically that Abigail Schreier was talking about is children and youth and how
Mm,
they're sent to therapists way too quickly. And not even when they're not even showing problems, they're
mhm,
given social emotional learning and learning therapeutic ideas, which are actually creating harm.
mhm,
It makes them think they are a problem.
mhm.
Yeah. And they're
If I
making
had
them
yeah,
ruminate, think about feelings they don't need to think about, making them little neurotic nutcases.
Shouldn't the parents be helping their child, teaching them emotional regulation, teaching them resiliency, teaching them how to communicate and, all those things? Why are parents so quick to push their 6, 7, 8-year-olds into therapy? Heck,
And put
even
them on meds
and
too,
yes.
that's crazy. And put them on meds. It's like I feel like the parents are looking for scapegoats
because
sometimes.
then the parents don't have to look at
Oh,
themselves.
darn. You're right. You're
Um,
right.
but then, yeah,
Yeah.
then there's the flip side, as Ryan was saying, is there's people who really could benefit from
Oh, yeah,
therapy. And
for
one
sure.
population that comes to mind, Ryan, you know more about now, is substance abuse,
Mhm.
people who are drug addicts. I mean,
Yep.
that you can't always just do it on your own. You can't always pull yourself up by your bootstraps. It
Agreed.
depends
Mhm.
on what the situation is. So we've got people who are making mountains out of molehills, but then we've
Mhm.
got people who are really self-destructive and are on a scary path, and they cannot pull themselves out, and that's when they really might benefit from
Mhm.
professional help.
What do
Or
you think?
conservatives who are afraid to come to therapy because they're afraid they're going to be in front of a
Mhm.
very liberal left-leaning person who is
Right.
I don't blame them,
unbalanced.
especially
Right.
men, right?
Right.
I mean,
I
one
would
What do you
not wanna see a
oh,
liberal female therapist. I'd wanna just
No.
if you're not mentally stable and you're worried you're gonna end up reaching across the room and punching your therapist, it's
yeah.
probably not gonna go well.
Yeah, one thing that I bring up to a lot of people is like, what if you are, a person who is being like shamed or attacked in the workplace for being white and or a man, and you're
Mhm.
thinking, okay, I need to like process some of this. Something's not right. This is not sitting well with me. I need to like unpack this. But you think this like 24-year-old like progressive woman is like has no idea what I'm going through, and they're just going to shame me and tell me to check my privilege.
With
Mhm.
I think they're
toxic
smart
feminism.
Yeah,
to
Mhm.
not go to that 24-year-old. That'd be a smart
yeah.
Yeah,
decision.
Mhm.
definitely not.
Because feminism has turned very toxic,
Oh,
Mhm.
very
yeah.
toxic.
Mhm.
And I think one of the most kind of under the gun populations right now is white men.
Mhm.
Well, how can feminism be a thing when the feminists are for the women, right? but they're okay with transgender females going into women's spaces.
They are against trad wives. They're against women who stay at home. They're against women who don't want to work. They are for woman face coming into our spaces.
Mhm.
It's crazy. It's
Mhm.
so toxic and just upside down. It's like I think you said it earlier. Make it make sense.
Make it make sense. There's no logic. It's just
No.
craziness.
They're also for death. I mean, they're anti-family.
Yeah.
Yes. Pro-abortion.
Mhm.
Really, and a lot of times for any reason at any point in time.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Hmm.
Wow.
So, last question I want to leave it with is, what do you think the mental health? What do you think the general public needs to know about mental health that you don't think is talked about enough?
Hmm.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Man, that's a good question, Ryan.
We're not all crazy, I guess, maybe. But most of us are and use a lot of discretion.
Vet your therapist.
Vet your therapist over and over
Yes.
again, too.
Over and
'cause
over again
They might seem cool for a while until they're not.
until they're not.
And I think
Right.
that just kind of begs the saying of your first match may not be the right one. That doesn't mean you should give up on it.
Right.
Try
Mhm.
again. And I think there's a lot of nervousness to come and just knowing that it'll be okay. And again, if the first therapist isn't a good match, try again.
And trust your gut.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh,
Keep talking though. As conservative clinicians, we need to keep getting the word out. That's probably my biggest message as a conservative therapist is that don't be afraid. Keep getting the word out. Keep speaking truth. Keep speaking reality, right? Reality based. That's my big message that I want to always try to keep getting out there. We can't be quiet. We have to
Yes.
keep pushing forward and getting the word out, getting the message out, keeping logic where logic needs to be and reality where reality is.
awesome. I love those answers. Thank you guys so much for coming. This was a fun episode.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Ryan.
All right, if y'all
Always a pleasure to be on this podcast. Love it.
for
I
sure.
appreciate it.
If you,
Thank you so much.